The Hurricanes and Sharks are streaking in opposite directions. Suddenly, teams in the Sunshine State aren't looking so tough, while Vegas and Colorado look as advertised. All that and more on this edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of the night in the NHL. During the regular season playoffs, we are available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. I'm Eddie Garcia, an LA Kings fan on the West Coast. He is Shukri Wrights, a Boston Bruins fan on the East Coast. And together, we are here to tell you about all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from another busy night in the NHL with an assist, a big assist from our Locked On local experts. Shu, though, a typical busy Saturday with 13 games on the schedule.
A typical busy Saturday, which includes a little bit of a microcosm of where we are in the NHL schedule so far, even though it is still extremely young in this NHL regular season. But man, hockey buffet galore, play of hockey to dive into. So let's rock.
Let's start with an original six matchup in Montreal, where the Canadiens were hosting the Rangers in New York. It's a big 4-3 win thanks to a big third period. Let's get the inside scoop from one of our local experts, the host of Locked On New York Rangers, and that's John Chick.
Gutsy win by the New York Rangers, 4-3 over the Montreal Canadiens on the road. The thing that I love about this game is the way the Rangers just stuck with it. They stuck with their game. They were down 2-0 before you could blink. I think it was like 4 minutes into the game. And instead of taking unnecessary risks, instead of hanging their heads and giving up the way that they certainly would have done last season, they just kept playing smart, defensively responsible hockey. They obviously got one back. They were down 2-1. They stayed in the fight for the first two periods, despite, it looking like that game could go off the rails very quickly. And then they knew when it was time to step on the gas in the third period. That is the best 20 minutes of hockey, the third period, that the Rangers have played in I don't even know how long. I don't think I care to know how long, but that is an excellent third period. And obviously some drama at the end with the Rangers clinging to the 1-goal lead, but they got the job done. Big win by the Rangers in Montreal. And if you're a Ranger fan, definitely enjoy this one because it's been tough sledding so far. And this is a character gutsy win that I think some of us knew was on the way for this team. So great stuff all around. Go Rangers.
All right, John Chick, thank you for that report. And it has been a completely different story for the New York Rangers on the road as opposed at home. They had 3 third-period goals, as he talked about. JT Miller, Matthew Robinson, his first career NHL goal, and then Artemi Panarin, who had a 4-point night. But the Rangers, Shu, 3-0-1 on the road. They've scored 15 goals in those 4 games, 0-3 at home, and 0 goals scored. So the road has been very kind so far for the New York Rangers, but a nice come-from-behind win for them up in Montreal.
I mean, certainly very much needed, especially when you think about the fact that the Rangers have scored 14 goals in their 3 wins prior to this one, and 1 goal in their 4 losses, which is inexplicable. Like, why can't they find that scoring touch on the road versus at home? But I'll take it even a step further in regards to this game, and I would say that when you think about what tonight means, it means that the Rangers were able to find that resilience button, and you saw what they were able to do after falling behind 2-0 early on. You got to give credit to JT Miller, Matthew Robertson, and Panarin scoring in the third period, so to put the Rangers out in front. And you know what? Perhaps maybe a little road cooking is a good thing for the Rangers right now, considering their struggles to score at home.
We go from the Rangers to the Devils. New Jersey hosting the Edmonton Oilers, and the Devils get a 5-3 victory in this one, and Jack Hughes putting on a show with a couple of beautiful goals to lead the way in a head-to-head matchup against Connor McDavid. Now, McDavid did have a couple of assists, but Jack Hughes was the more dynamic player, at least in this game, and certainly from a goal-scoring standpoint. But 4 straight wins for New Jersey now on the season. as they're 4-1 now. A first time in nearly 3 years that they have won 4 in a row. If they can stay healthy, and if Jack Hughes in particular can stay healthy, they look like a team that could make some noise in the East this year.
100%. You know what's funny? This is the longest winning streak that they've had since they won 5 in a row from January 7th through the 16th of 2023. And like this is one of those instances where, like, is it Saturday afternoon? You're at the Prudential Center in Newark, and the Devils they certainly raised hell on the Oilers. And like Jesper Bratt was absolutely terrific in this game, as well as Nico Hischier, who had two assists as well. But as you mentioned, Jack Hughes was absolutely tremendous. He had the 2 goals in this game, and as well as an assist for 3 points. So if, like, for the Devils, like, this was absolutely the type of performance that they needed in terms of the offensive perspective, and as well as like getting solid goaltending as well.
Connor Brown, a shorthanded goal against his old team for New Jersey. No points in this one for Leon Draisaitl. Meanwhile, we had the only remaining undefeated team in action, the Carolina Hurricanes, out on the West Coast to take on my LA Kings. Great start for the Kings. Great start for the Canes against the Kings. Carolina scoring 3 goals to take a 3-0 lead. LA, though, battles back to tie it at 3-3. We go overtime before Carolina gets the victory. Let's get a report on this one from the host of Locked On Carolina Hurricanes, and that is Zach Martin.
Make that 5-0 on the season for the Carolina Hurricanes as Seth Jarvis scores his 4th game-winning goal of the season already, his 6th of the season, and the Hurricanes win 4-3 in overtime to stay undefeated and are now 5-0 in their game against the LA Kings. Tough battle, up 3-0. Lucien Gostisbehere in the first period. Kings storm back to make it 3-3, but the Hurricanes, being the relentless team that they are, found a way to get the job done, securing the second point, and now they're off to Vegas with a 5-0 start to the season, and that is a 5-game point streak for Jarvis and Sebastian Aho. What a night on Saturday in the City of Angels, and they have now dethroned the Kings and keeping their winning ways alive.
Thanks to Zach Martin for that report. Again, Carolina 5-0, the only remaining undefeated team left in the NHL, and he talked about a big game coming up with Vegas. That'll be a must-watch matchup coming up later on in the week. But Carolina, I mean, great start, and then they kind of have to hold on for the win, but they're finding ways to win right now. My LA Kings, it's always something with them each and every night. It's one night it's too many penalties. One night it's can't score on the power play. One night it's get off to a bad start and have to dig your way out of the hole. So there's always something with this team every night. I am encouraged that they battled back a number of times when they've been down, but if they could straighten out a few of these issues, maybe they'd be okay. But right now, 1-3-2, the LA Kings on the season.
And it's one of those things where even as my phone goes off in the background, that's probably wondering where on earth is this music coming from. But
who's calling you at this hour?
I mean, it's an alarm for the Kings to wake up.
Like, I see. Very well said.
Like, seriously. But no, like, I was gonna say, listen, aerial grievance is like Festivus, a sign for reference for those that don't know. But no, seriously, like for the Carolina Hurricanes, you have to be infused with the fact that you are somehow able to hold on to the victory, even though it took you until overtime before you ultimately were able to grab that second and most important point in this one. But man, like, you talk about like Seth Jarvis, like, coming up with the clutch factor, no surprise there. But if you're the Kings, you are encouraged with the fact that they showed a great deal of grit and heart in coming back in this one, especially with Trevor Moore, Andrei Kuzmenko, and Kevin Fiala scoring. But man, like, the Kings have got to find a way to be able to put all 60-minute effort into games moving forward.
All right. Well, you can turn off your alarm while I tell you that your Bruins were in Colorado to take on the Avalanche, but it is the Avs continuing to roll. 4-1 win over Boston. Nathan McKinnon, another big effort with a pair of goals, numbers 5 and 6 on the season for him. Scott Wedgwood only had to face 14 shots from your Bruins in this one. He did let one in, but that was it. and Colorado gets the win. They now lead the NHL with 11 points in the season. 5-0-1 are the Avalanche.
Oh, certainly. And then, and it was funny about that game is that unfortunately for the Bruins, it wasn't a laughing matter on like dropping a tough one in Colorado, but it really was more of the same from Nathan McKinnon, 2 goals and practically just being a dominant offensive force and something that the Bruins did not have an answer for at all. It was just one of those things where no matter what happens, they just had no answer for McKinnon. They top a tough one in Colorado.
All right. Suddenly, Florida teams are struggling. That's something new. We'll talk about that next year on Locked On NHL Game Night. Obviously, hockey season officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for an early season game. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprising fees, and prices that jump up right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer for your team. That's when Gametime steps in to help you out, the app that gives fans the advantage. It is your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that when you see the price, that's what you're going to get. There's no hidden fees at checkout. Plus, you can also see exactly what your view is like before you buy your tickets with their in-app seat view feature. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Gametime picks your seat, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right, let's check in on those teams from the state of Florida who's been so successful over the past few years. But the Florida Panthers in Buffalo to take on the Sabres. This one, all Buffalo, a 3-0 shutout. Alex Lyon stopped all 32 shots he saw to blank his former team. Josh Doan, a pair of power play goals. Obviously, any win's a big win for Buffalo at this point. But the story here, with all due respect to the Sabres, and that's a nice win for them at home in front of the home folks against the defending champs. Florida started the year 3 wins, and we're like, Barkov, Kachuk, they're fine. Maybe not. They've now lost 4 in a row.
I mean, the story for me in this one was Brad Marchand. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
I
did
laughed. I laughed my butt off. Are you kidding me? That was like a microcosm of Brad Marchand being Brad Marchand, but also on a not so funny side, what is going on in Florida with the Panthers? I mean, yes, you had to have known they weren't going 82-0. That wasn't realistic, but it's the way how they've struggled and how they have looked where it's been concerning, where the only roar that you're hearing from the Panthers these days is the one of a puck hitting the post in defeat.
Yeah, if you didn't see it, Brad Marchand got into it. He ripped off the helmet of Rasmus Dahlin, took the helmet into the penalty box, and then basically destroyed it. Yeah. And so Dahlin had to put on a teammate's helmet to keep playing. But
in typical Marchand fashion, that's what made it even funnier.
Meanwhile, the Lightning lose in Columbus to the Blue Jackets by a score of 3-2. That's the first home win of the season for the Blue Jackets. Let's check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On Columbus Blue Jackets. It's Jay Forster.
Difficult on themselves. Blue Jackets finally picked up another win. Jay Foster, Locked On Blue Jackets here. Blue Jackets beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-2 in what I would describe as a low event and also very stressful game. Outshot the Lightning by about 15 shots, I believe. Goals from Damon Severson, goals from Kent Johnson, goals from Kromachenko doing Kromachenko things. Honestly, a really, really good effort from the Blue Jackets. Had another goal called off, allowed another power play goal. So obviously things are still not perfect over here in CBJ land, but just really, really great to see another win on the board. They didn't like their compete level in the last game against the Avalanche, worst game of the season, and they needed to have one of their best games of the season tonight to beat the Lightning, and they did just that. We're going to talk more about that on Monday's episode of Locked On Blue Jackets, available wherever you get podcasts and also over on YouTube.
All right, thanks to Jake Forster for that report. Kromachenko, by the way, a really good player. He had the game-winning goal in the third period, his 5th of the year. But the story here is Tampa Bay. Nikita Kucherov did miss his second straight game due to illness, But the Lightning, again, a pick by many to be the Stanley Cup champs this year, 1-3-2 now on the season.
Which is alarming. We're almost at the point where time to sound the alarms, if you will. But I get it. I mean, it's what, 6 games into the season, but you can't possibly be thrilled with the state of hockey down in Florida right now. No pun intended. Like with the Panther struggles, but now with the Lightning in particular, I think what's even more jarring is the fact of how they've lost these these close games, and they have had very little answer for it, like, so far. But like Ryan McDonough continues to play some pretty good hockey, but in terms of the team wide aspect of things, they have not looked their absolute best, and it's beginning to get a little concerning down in Tampa Bay.
Kraken were at the Maple Leafs. Seattle pulls out the 3-2 overtime win. This is also a battle of baseball teams in the playoffs, with the Blue Jays taking on the Mariners. But on the ice, it was Seattle getting the win in this one. Defenseman Josh Mahura, the overtime game winner. Let's check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On Seattle Kraken. It's Erica L. Ayala.
The Seattle Kraken, probably, after getting an overtime win over the Toronto Maple Leafs. Erica L. Ayala, your host of Locked On Kraken, and that's right, another overtime game, the 4th consecutive overtime game. This time, the Seattle Kraken get the win over the Toronto Maple Leafs. Another 4-3 score. Josh Mahura with the game-winning goal. A nice give and go. He hits, I believe it was Eberle, on the wall, and then cuts through the middle with some speed, gets the goal, and gets the win for the Seattle Kraken, who are in Toronto the same weekend that the Seattle Mariners are hoping to punch their ticket to the World Series. Like I said at the top, the Kraken have done their part. Now, Mariners, it's up to you.
All right, thanks to Erica Ayala for that report. The Kraken all wearing Seattle Mariner jerseys as they walked into the arena, which I thought there's a lot of Canadians on that team. I wonder if there's some Blue Jay fans actually wearing those Mariner jerseys. But hey, good win for Seattle. 3-0-2 now on the season under new head coach Lane Lambert. So that's going a lot better than I expected, at least early on. For Toronto, John Tavares, a couple of goals in defeat in this one.
Also, interesting note. I know, like, we do have a lot of Canadian viewers, but Dan Shulman, the TV voice of the Toronto Blue Jays on Sportsnet, he did the opening for Hockey Night in Canada for Seattle, Toronto. That was also a worthy of note as well. As one to throw that in there. But as far as the game was concerned, like Seattle definitely has been they've been clicking. Like, they have definitely been playing some really strong hockey. I like what I've seen from Shane Wright, and tonight he continued that with a 2-point and a goal and the assist as well. So, but unfortunately for the Maple Leafs, despite what Johnson was having a pretty good night, having a 2-goal game, it just wasn't enough. And ultimately, they just fell short against the Seattle team that just came out with just a little extra juice.
We had the Golden Knights hosting the Flames, and this one was pretty ugly. Vegas out to a 3-1 lead after one, led 5-1 after two, and finished with a 6-1 win. And frankly, thought the Flames quit in this one. Didn't show a lot of fight late. It seemed like they wanted to get out of Sin City and get this one over with. Mitch Marner, his first 2 goals as a Vegas Golden Knight. Captain Mark Stone had 2 as well. And Vegas's power play looks really good. They were 3 for 3 of the man advantage in this one. Vegas 4-0-2 on the season, as they have got points in all 6 games so far. For Calgary, 1-5. They've lost 5 in a row.
Can you say touchdown without the extra point in this one? I mean,
sure.
I mean, you technically could, but Mitch Marner has fit in really nicely with the Vegas Golden Knights, and not just only because of this game, but it's been very evident early on. But man, like, you mentioned it, and I thought it was actually appropriate. The Calgary Flames quit in this game, and it was just downright embarrassing. Unfortunately, you're gonna have nights where you're getting your butt kicked pretty badly in the NHL, but tonight it just seemed like the will and desire to want to come back in this game was just not there. And like, so, but for Vegas, they made sure that they put their foot on the throat, so to speak. And as well as, like, their top guns came out to play, like Tomas Hertl, Mark Stone, and as well as Ivan Barbashev as well. So for me, like, I mean, Vegas just looks like an absolute wagon right now.
We told you the Hurricanes remained the only undefeated team left in the NHL. Would the Sharks remain the only winless team in the NHL? That's next on Locked On NHL Game Night. NFL season is here. FanDuel is here to make sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to bet across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It is quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Winnipeg Jets, the defending President's Trophy winners, looking strong as they take care of the Nashville Predators by a score of 4-1 for their fourth win in a row. Power play goal for Mark Scheifele, his sixth of the season, and he passes Blake Wheeler to become the franchise's all-time leader in points with 813. Connor Hellebuck lost a shutout bid in the final minute, but he gets the win, allowing one goal on 31 shots. Again, Winnipeg 4-1 now on the season.
I mean, outstanding accomplishment by Mark Scheifele. Congratulations, sincerely. And you talk about like what this means to Scheifele, who after the game talked about how he felt that it is a tremendous honor for Scheifele, but then also not to be forgotten in this game. Nino Niederreiter had a goal and assist in this one, as long as Vladislav Namestnikov. So you talk about another strong goaltending performance from Connor Hellebuck, who had a 30-save night. So who continues to play some really strong hockey. And also Jonathan Toews, 2 points, 2 assists in this one. So like all in all, like all things looking good so far in Winnipeg.
Blues get their first home win of the season and a nice win over a very good Dallas Stars team. 3-1 the final. Let's check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On St. Louis Blues. That is Haley Taylor Simon.
Had a 3-1 victory over the Dallas Stars, and it was a great game for the Blues. Jordan Binnington only let in 1 goal in tonight's contest and proved that he can be dominant and stellar on home ice. When it comes to the scoring, I want to give a huge shout out to Jordan Kyrou, who is now playing on the third line with Braden Shen and Matthew Joseph. He did a great job in tonight's contest. All around, this team looked really well put together. I know that there are still some challenges that the Blues need to figure out, but a win over the Dallas Stars is something that I hope that these guys can take with them in the rest of not only this homestand, but as the season progresses. Good job, and let's go Blues.
All right, thanks to Haley Taylor Simon for that report. Everything's okay in her neighborhood there. Sounded like something was going on there. But no, nice win for the St. Louis Blues to get that first home win over a very good Dallas Stars team. Jordan Binnington only had to see 18 shots, stops 17 of them, and gets the win as both Dallas and St. Louis are off to 3-2 starts on the season.
They're definitely a tremendous win for the Blues, in which that the Blues were able to get right at home. And you got to give them credit. Like Jordan Kyrou was a big part of that as well. So in regards to what we saw tonight, one of the things that stood up to me as well was the performance of Jordan Binnington, who was strong in net for the Blues, but then also getting contributions from Jimmy Snuggerud and Pius Suter as well. And frankly, like this was the first game this season where I felt like the Blues had a full 60-minute game as well.
Islanders go into Ottawa, beat the Senators 5-4 for their second win in a row after opening the season with 3 straight losses. Let's get a check in on this one with our local expert, the host of Locked On New York Islanders. That's Gil Martin.
Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders here. Islanders defeat the Ottawa Senators 5-4 in a matinee in Ottawa. And I think the thing I love most about this game, the Islanders did not quit. They fell behind early, and they kept rallying. And in the end, the captain, Anders Lee, with a beautiful goal in the closing minutes to give the Islanders the lead. There are still things that need to be cleaned up. The defense needs to be better. The goaltending needs to be better. Ilya Sorokin struggling big time. But Matthew Schaefer keeps his streak alive, and this team showed resilience. They bounced back, they kept at it, and they got an important win. That's 2 in a row. For more in-depth daily coverage of your New York Islanders, check out the Locked On Islanders podcast.
And thanks to Gil Martin for that report. He talked about Matthew Schaefer keeping the streak going. The number 1 overall pick has 1 point in all 5 games this season. He had an assist in the win over the Senators. Meanwhile, Ottawa dealing with life without Brady Tkachuk, their captain, out 4 to 6 weeks with thumb surgery. So they come up a little bit short in this one. How about Shane Pinto, though? Leading the NHL in goals with 7. He did miss a penalty shot in this one, but did score his 7th goal of the year. But the Islanders showing a little fight after getting off to an 0-3 start. They've won 2 in a row.
Well, they've certainly played a better hockey as well. And like what was alluded to in the report, like Islanders certainly have things to clean up. But one player on the Ottawa Center that doesn't is Shane Pinto, who has been an absolute he has been a train like in terms of the score sheet this year, leading the league in scoring, and that's something that the Senators, they're going to need a lot more of with Brady Tkachuk like being out with the thumb surgery as well.
Low scoring game in Philadelphia. In the end, the Flyers pull out a 2-1 overtime win over the Wild. We'll get a report on this one from one of our local experts, the host of Locked On Flyers. That would be Rachel Donner.
Dan Vladar continues to establish himself as at least the preferred goaltender as the Philadelphia Flyers defeat the Minnesota Wild in overtime 2-1. Hi, I'm Rachel Donner from Locked On Flyers, and in 3 games so far, Dan Vladar is 2-1 and had a .938 save percentage in his most recent game. He's well above the 900 threshold that seemed elusive last season for Flyers goaltenders. Owen Tippett was also a standout in the game as well. He's off to a really good start this season with 3 goals in 5 games. That is extremely important given his lack of scoring threat last season, and he'll have to keep it up for the Flyers to stay competitive this season. The one thing to keep an eye on from tonight is that now we've seen multiple times Rick Tocchet has chosen to bench Matvei Michkov after he's made mistakes. Tocchet has said Michkov has to play through these mistakes to develop, but that has not borne out in game. More on this game and a preview of Flyers versus Kraken on the Monday show of the Locked On Flyers podcast.
And thanks to Rachel Donner for that report. Dan Vladar only saw 16 shots on net. He turned aside 15 of them in the victory. And we talked about it the other day, Shu. Minnesota has had a red-hot power play, but if they don't get power play goals, it's hard to find offense. They did get a Vladimir Tarasenko 5-on-5 goal, but they were 0 for 3 on the power play in this one. So again, they're still trying to figure things out when they don't have a power play. And if they don't score on the power play, they're in big trouble.
And it's certainly jarring to see that the way that the Minnesota Wild have struggled offensively on 5-on-5, as you mentioned, Tarasenko with the lone 5-on-5 goal for the Wild. But I think the story in this game is the defense for the Flyers and the way that they were able to perform tonight in terms of limiting the opportunities for the Wild, and then 2, the play of Owen Tippett, who had the game time goal in this one, and as well as seeing like Noah Cates having the OT winner for the Flyers was something that it actually counted this time around, thankfully for the Flyers. But ultimately, they continue to get like pretty strong goaltending from Dan Vladar, and it's definitely something that they're going to need a lot more of this season moving forward.
And our final game out in San Jose, where the Sharks were hosting the Penguins. Would San Jose finally get their first win of the year? The answer is no. They were shut out by the Pittsburgh Penguins by a score of 3-0. Let's check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On San Jose Sharks. That would be JD Young.
The San Jose Sharks are still in search of their first win of the season, this time getting shut out by the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm JD Young of Locked On Sharks. The Sharks played one of their more complete games tonight, but they just couldn't solve goaltender Tristan Jarry as they lose 3-0. Michael Misa had some of his best moments in his NHL career, as well as Sam Dickinson. The Sharks outshot the Penguins, and this was the first time all season where the Sharks had actually outshot their opponent, but just couldn't get one to the net. Empty netter did make this a little bit uglier than it actually was, and was a really competitive and fun game between both teams. but the Sharks just couldn't solve Jari tonight. And Nedeljkovic, who played very well tonight, was one of the reasons why the Sharks were in it, especially early, just got beat on 2 beautiful goals, one by Sidney Crosby. So we'll break this game down on your next episode of Locked On Sharks, wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well.
All right. Thanks to JD Young for that report. The Sharks trying to take baby steps. At least their goaltenders didn't cough up a fur ball and give up a goal in this one. So I guess some progress, but 0-3-2 now on the season are the Sharks looking for that first win. Pittsburgh, though, still continuing that little bit of a surprising start from them. 4-2 now on the season for the Pens.
And, I got to give credit to Nedeljkovic, who has heard it all week. But also in terms of the Penguins, this was pretty much the Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin show whom they both had a goal and an assist in this one. So if you're the Penguins, you're going to need to see more of Crosby and Malkin. I mean, not as if they haven't seen it over the last 20 years, but even more so this season as well, and as well as get contributions for timely goals. In this case, tonight it was Anthony Mantha who stepped up for the Penguins as well, who were playing some pretty good hockey right now.
If you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, there is a Locked On NHL team podcast and YouTube show for you, except for New Jersey and Calgary, but we're working on that. This show, Locked On NHL Game, and also here for you each and every night during the regular season and the playoffs, wrapping up the night in the NHL. So find your favorite local show and make sure you stick with with the Locked On NHL Game Night show as well to get you updated on everything that happened in the night in the NHL. Subscribe, like if you're watching on YouTube, and if you want to put your comments in the comment section about what you thought about the games tonight, we'd love for you to do that as well. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. For Shukri Wrights, I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.